to fuel your business success. Welcome to Harmonious at Lunch. We're bringing you bite-sized advice and expert conversations to drive clarity and growth 5 days a week. Make sure you join our Facebook group at humanop.com/lunch, where listeners like you and our guests hang out so we can find harmony in business together. If you're building a business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're talking about a fun topic, a little bit outside of the normal business tips. We're talking about unlocking your inner leader and how owning your identity will transform your impact. I love this. It's the stuff that actually moves the needle in your business. And it's the stuff that we need to talk more about on this show, quite frankly. But we're going to do that today with Peter Atwood. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Brandon, thanks, man. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have this conversation. We've done a whole lot of business-specific strategy, tactic episodes recently. We have not gone outside of that, which, quite frankly, I like to do at least 20% of the time on the show. And this is an important topic. You're talking to, or you work with leaders. You help them unlock their inner leader. What does that mean? Let's set the context for this episode.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, man, is that we don't see ourselves as leaders. A lot of us don't. We find ourselves in positions and, we're doing the thing, but we're all leading in some capacity. And so whether you're founder, CEO, manager, whatever position you're in, you are still leading someone. And it's also outside of, and most importantly, outside of your business. I mean, it's in your community, it's in your family if you have one, it's with your spouse if you have one, it's with your kids if you have those. And so we are all leaders in some capacity. And it's interesting because you say we don't talk about this much. And it's one of the most profound and important things to talk about, because a lot of us are solving issues and problems with solutions that aren't the right fit for us. And so we're just looking to find that hack and talk to that guru and do that newfangled thing. And really the bigger question is, why you? Is this the right thing you're supposed to be working on? What's most important to you? What's your vision? What are you actually, what mission are you on? And a lot of times when we can answer those things, then I don't know about all the answers being clear, but man, the things that are not right, that are not the right fit for us, become very clear. The contrast is very sharp.
Yeah, I love that. I love starting there too. I'll answer the question about being a guru, and then I'll let you do it too. I'm no guru. Are you a guru here today, Peter?
No, I am just the guide,
okay,
man.
Good.
I'm just the guide.
Good. I love it. Yeah, so no gurus will be found here. So if you're looking for one, sorry, try another podcast. But I want to start there, because let's take this like you would be working with a client, right? So you're asking those questions. What do you typically find when you start working with somebody about their level of clarity, so to speak, about who they are, why you, mission, vision? What do you hear back from people?
It's very, very fuzzy, man. And to me, that's kind of a sad thing, because what happens is we get old and we get practical. We get old and we get cynical. It's just the way life is. It's the cards we were dealt. It's what has to be done. It's the way it's supposed to be done. Here's those sorts of things. And as we get older, we forget to dream. We forget about what keeps us alive. We forget about what makes us feel alive. And we just get super practical. And so when I ask that question, I'd say the majority of the time is it's followed by a huge pause. And they lean back. And it's like they've never even thought to ask that question before. It's like nobody's ever asked them that before. What's that?
I said, isn't that sad?
It's extremely sad. Because I like to say, let's have some fun. Like, we forget to have fun. This is supposed to be fun. Doesn't mean it's not going to be hard, but gosh, don't we want to have fun? If while you're doing the hard thing, you can have fun, wouldn't that be better? Isn't this why we play sports? Isn't this why we do certain things? You're like, they're still hard, and they're still tearing muscle, and you're still sweating, and you still lose some time. But you're having fun. Can't work be like that? Can our profession be like that? Can't pursuing our purpose be like that? Sure it can. But you first have to know the question to ask. It's like, why you? Why this project? Why this thing?
So let's answer the question. Like, why? How do you answer that question when you ask people why you? First of all,
Mhm.
what are some responses? I would assume it's I don't know. I just got here. I've settled into this seat after 15 years and now I have no idea what else to do. But what do you typically hear and how do you actually go about answering that question?
Yeah, I think that it's all of the things that we just said as far as what we typically hear is that 9 times out of 10 they don't even know. And they really got to sit and think about it and peeling back a bunch of layers of shoulda, coulda, woulda to then
Mhm.
find out what it is that they actually want to be working on. And a lot of times it's in conflict with what they have to be doing and the life they're living and the overhead they have and all that. Now, I walk through some version of what I'm about to tell you. And this was presented to me by a good friend running an extremely large company when I was lamenting about purpose, half a decade ago. And he said, "Oh, Peter, it's hard, but it's simple. What are your superpowers? What do you want the work to look like? What do you want the incentives to be?" And he looked at me and he's like, and we're having barbecue at some Austin barbecue place in the middle of nowhere and outside of town. And he's like, "It's real simple, man." And the thing for me was that I didn't know the answer to any of those questions because I hadn't really thought about them. I'm like, superpowers, what are those? I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't know what I'm great at. Nobody's presented it to me that way. And then what do you want the work to look like? It's like, wait, can I just whiteboard this thing? Like anything? How do I want the work to look like? Like anyway? And just like letting yourself dream a little bit. And then incentives can be financial, but sometimes it's like, oh, I just want to travel a bit, or I want autonomy, or I want to be able to be remote. I want to be able to like travel the world while I work, like whatever the incentives need to be. And so answering those three questions will allow you to be like, okay, this looks completely ridiculous. And there's no way on this earth that those three boxes can intersect. But man, if I could, that would be really cool. And here's what's interesting about that. And you guys have all heard about the reticular activation system, right? But it's like once you decide you're going to buy a red Jeep, you see it everywhere. Once you write those three things down, the impossible can start to become possible. You're like, wait a minute, that one profession or that one business that I've been thinking about, or that one thing somebody presented to me before that seems crazy. Hmm. Those kind of intersect with those three boxes I just filled out. And then you start to see the opportunity, or it might be within your own organization that you have now. You start to like just chip away at the things that aren't in those three boxes. You start to delegate things. You start to change the way the business is structured. And then all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, I can shape this into the business that lines up with the leader that's inside of me.
Hmm. I like that. I'm curious for you when you're eating barbecue in Austin. First of all, I don't think there's anywhere better to be eating barbecue. I'm just gonna put that out there. If you disagree, please let me know in the
It's
comments, and I
true.
will
It's
travel
true.
there. But you asked those questions, and you probably did the sit back in the chair and say, I don't know where to begin with this.
Mhm.
What did that process look like? I mean, did you come up with the answers while you're eating lunch, or did you actually go back and truly whiteboard them?
No, and I'll tell you right now, this is not what the listener wants to hear, but this is really, really important work, and it's okay if it takes time. Because however
Mm,
old you are, whoever's listening right now, you've spent the last X amount of years, probably decades, square pegging yourself into a position that you weren't meant to be. And it's because you don't even know who you are. You don't know how God made you. You don't know what your superpowers are. You haven't spent the time. And that's okay. It's not because you're a bad person. It's because you're busy. It's because you're pursuing the dream, maybe somebody else's dream. I'll just put that out there. And so for me, it was like hiring a coach and sitting down and just checking box number one. I'm like, superpowers? I don't know. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. I've been doing the thing that I did outside when I got out of college because I started a business and it took off. And sometimes you can be captive to your own success. It's like this the thing that I tried and it succeeded. But was it the right thing for me? I don't know. Hard to answer that question. And so I just sat down. I'm like, hey, man, superpowers, let's go. And for 6 months, we worked together and I teased out superpowers. And here's the funny thing, Brandon, is like I checked that box and you think I'd be excited. I'm like, all right, box number one, I got it. I know my superpowers. I was depressed. And Coach Mike's like, what's your deal, man? Like, we just figured this out. And I told him, I said, this is not a marketable skill. What am I going to do with these skills? What these superpowers are like, Peter's a nice guy and he makes friends everywhere. and he can solve problems quickly. Like, what does he do with that? What is this? He's like, oh, you don't get to know yet. Sort of laughing at me. You don't get to know. And it's like I just told you, it's the red Jeep again. And so for the next 6 months, I just paid attention. And then I started thinking like, coaching, that's interesting. And for me, when I've got an idea, and you're probably the same way, I start shopping it around 20, 30 people. I'll say, hey, Brandon, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And usually 50+% of the time, the person tells me you're an idiot. It's a bad idea. There's a lot of holes in this thing. You didn't really think about it. I shop it around to people that know the thing and they're in that, maybe they're in that industry or they've got some specific knowledge and they're going to shoot me straight because they're friends. This was the first time in my life where I shopped it around and every single person said, of course. And I'm like, what do you mean, of course? Like, you've been coaching me forever. You just didn't know it. These are the attributes of the conversations we have, Peter. You're just not paying attention. And I'm like, oh man, this is really fascinating. And here's a really cool thing, Brandon, is that I had made a joke to my wife probably 5 years before that, where I said, man, if I could just talk to people for a living, wouldn't that be cool? And I was just kidding. I was joking. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing, right? Wouldn't that be funny? And now what do? I talk to people for a living. And so you start seeing these things and you start looking in the rear of your mirror and you start seeing clues that if you're a believer, because I coach Christian businessmen, God's been dropping these little clues and he's been like, hey, dum-dum, hey, buddy, see this? You had a lot of fun here. You had a lot of influence and impact here. And I wasn't paying attention, but I look in the rearview mirror and I'm like, oh gosh, now it makes sense. It makes sense why I worked on all those projects. It makes sense why I had so much energy in those things. It made sense why I had so much influence and impact in those moments because I was coaching. And then I started dabbling, right? And then I started building that business and thinking about like, okay, superpowers, work to look like, I don't know. I just started testing and just slowly over the course of a couple of years, checking the boxes and being like, oh, this is how we're going to bake the cake. These are the ingredients we're going to have. Okay. This is starting to make sense.
Yeah. It's interesting. You started that response with, this is what the listeners are not going to like. And then you just said it took a couple of years. We all want instant gratification. And I think it really is a process. Like you look in the rearview mirror and I agree with you. God's funny in that way where you look back and you're like, wow, he really was saying, hey, dum-dum. Like the letter started, hi, dum-dum. Please pay attention.
Yes.
Like, okay, it took me far too long to see that and to really understand it. But you also raised an interesting point there where, we have some listeners who they know what they want to do and they're doing it, or at least they think they do. And you said you were captivated by your own success. Yeah. What do you do when you meet someone maybe comes to you, whether to be a client or not, just a casual conversation, and you ask them a question that totally messes everything up? Like, are you sure? Are you sure you're having success in the area you want to be? I mean, how do you know for certain that you're not captivated by success and that you are on the right path or you're fulfilling your purpose? What do you do with those people?
Yeah. I think for me, it's about truth telling and confession. And that might sound really weird, but I was just telling someone the other day, I don't consider myself a liar. I think I'm pretty truthful. But a lot of times when we are discussing something or talking through something with a client and asking questions, you can really feel it when they've given this like knee-jerk response. And it's like, well, if we're truth telling, if we're truly confessing, and you start thinking about like, well, I'm successful and I'm making an impact, but I'm not happy. I'm just not happy with what I'm working on. Where I go home and I'm like, I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm fearful. I'm like kind of scared that this is not going to work out. I'm scared. And that's a word that I don't use because I'm a hard charging type A, pain in the neck. I don't use the word scared or fear. But if I'm being truthful, yeah, scared, fearful, unhappy, right? And so when someone is truth telling and I can help draw that out of them, it's, again, not the guru, but the guide, guiding them through this conversation of being like, man, are you happy? And if you are, awesome. I'm excited for you. But a lot of times when they sit down, they're like, I don't even like what I'm doing. I don't even like where I'm at. I had a client that's running probably the largest commercial real estate program in the country. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you think this is going to work out?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "What?" I go, "I don't know. How am I supposed to know? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's going to work out? Do you think it should? Maybe it's not supposed to work out. Maybe it's time for you to move on and do something completely different." Because it was really clear to me that he was extremely unhappy. And we went on to have the most incredible truth telling conversation because he said to me, "I've had 10 coaches over the years, been in this business 25 years. No one's ever told me that response you just gave me. They always tell me, yeah, it's going to work out. It's going to be great. Like, you're the first person to tell me, I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't." And it opened up his mind to really think about, well, what if it doesn't work out? Maybe that's a good thing. How many of you guys listening, and Brandon, you included, where things haven't worked out and you were really bummed, and then you look back and you're like, dang, I'm glad that thing didn't work out. I'm glad I dodged that bullet because, gosh, I wouldn't have got to be here. I wouldn't have got to work on this thing, right? So many times it's such a blessing for things not to work out because you were meant to close that door. And what's really weird about business leaders and business owners is like people quit all the time, right? You don't get to quit. This project you started, it better last forever. No, you can quit. Sometimes the best thing to do is quit. Sometimes the best thing to do is close the chapter and open a new one. Sometimes you got to close the book and open a new book. Nothing wrong with that. That's fun. But we look at it as this failure. We look at it as this thing that we started that we need to do forever. And it's like, well, maybe, probably not.
Yeah, that's always the hardest part for people is the what next kind of thing, and having thinking they have to have all the answers, so to speak, which you just illustrated beautifully in that point. Like how could you know? I don't care if you're a guru, a coach, if you know for certain, like you don't know what's next. Nobody knows what's next. So for you in particular, I would say you have an advantage with your clients because having a faith is supposed to at least make these things a little easier. Do you ever compare that side by side and say, for your clients who are believers and they have this faith, the what's next becomes a little easier to step into because of that faith versus someone who maybe doesn't have that and they question what's right, what's wrong, what's next, all these bigger questions. How does that play out when, especially for business owners, because the what's next is always unknown?
Yeah. Yes. I've always said that, and not even jokingly, because I think it's, to me, scary and almost sad. Without a faith, I don't know how I'd make it.
Yeah.
Because then that would mean it's all up to me. And I was God and I had to do the thing. Like, that is the scariest thing ever. And so, as a man of faith in business, it's like, well, my favorite prayer is, Lord, what do you want me to know? And what do you want me to do? And I got that from Jamie Winship, who's one of my favorite authors of all time. And it's just like asking him and abiding in him. Usually I have this hat on for people that are watching. They can see it says yoked, and it's from Matthew 11:29. And people are like, well, why'd you make that hat? And I hand these out like candy because I love them. And it's a reminder of, the Matthew 11:29, yoke is easy, burden is light. What does that mean? It's like, well, what a yoke was is they join a senior ox and a junior ox together. Why? Well, the senior ox would teach the junior ox, and he would guide him when to go left, when to go right, how fast to go, when to stop. But also, he would carry a portion of the load, a disproportionate amount of the load, because he was much stronger than the junior ox. And so when Jesus said, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, he's like, hey, just be next to me, man. Be near me. Let me guide you. And oh, by the way, you can't carry this weight by yourself. You're too weak. I'll carry it with you. I'll carry a disproportionate amount of the load that you were never meant to carry by yourself. And so for business leaders, the ones that I'm coaching, I'm reminding them of that. And it's interesting, dude. You think that for Christian business leaders that they would have an easier time, but we're all just human, man, and we forget. And it's like, hey, and for me, it's fun to be the guide and facilitate these conversations. Like, hey, dude, what do you think? You're going to do this on your own? You carry around the moniker self-made. I hate that moniker because it's a joke. It's a joke. We're not self-made. You didn't make yourself. That's ridiculous. And oh, by the way, Christian or not, Last I checked, you needed team members and coaches and consultants and vendors and customers. So nobody's self-made. That's crazy. You're not growing your business in a vacuum. And so for our clients, man, it's just reminding them like, hey, dude, lean on him. You can lean on me, but I'm just giving you information that he's given to me to give to you. And if it's really good advice, he gave it to me. And if it's really bad advice, that was my own.
That's so true. I love that response too. And yeah, self-made. You needed a mother and a father too, first and foremost. So nothing was self-made.
Yeah,
Oh,
that would be very weird.
That's America in a nutshell, though. So yeah, we got a long way to go. But Peter, this is an awesome conversation that I'm sure we could continue to have for most of the day. But we got to wrap this up. But the listeners, if they want to reach out, they want to work with you, or just find out a little bit more about having that guide, not guru, in their life, where should they go?
Yeah, you go to whitestonecoach.com. We've got a free leader guide there, and you can text Whitestone to 55444. So just text Whitestone 2 words, and you'll get the free leader guide. You'll get on our email lists. We'll send you some information. We only really email once a week, so we won't inundate you. But that resource is there. You can book a call there, shoot me an email, and reach out. That would be amazing.
I love it. Peter, thanks for stopping by.
Brandon, thanks, man.
For those of you watching, listening, wherever you are, all of that, including the instructions to text, are down in the show notes. So grab that, go over to the website, follow Peter on social, and we'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.
Another episode of Harmonious at Lunch in the books. I hope this episode made you think and you grabbed some actionable ideas to propel your business. Don't forget to like, comment your takeaways, and subscribe wherever you're listening so we can help more entrepreneurs just like you achieve harmony in their life and business. For cutting-edge tools that bring clarity to your people and processes, check out humanoff.com.